Welcome back to Not a Straight Line with me, Pete Daly-Dickson. This is the show that explores the non-linear journeys of artists and entrepreneurs to inspire you as you zigzag through your own non-straight line life. And this week, I had a chat with Maite Grisard. Love and benevolence. Two words that together create a summary of Maite's approach to life and the impact she wants to have on the world. And it showed in spades throughout our conversation. Since she was young, Maite wanted to travel the world, and she quickly figured out with her neurodivergence that the corporate life was not for her. And while the global pandemic slowed her plans, she's now writing books and co-running a company with a goal to change the planet, all through love and benevolence. Her energy is boundless and focused, direct and embracing, and she always has a kind heart and an open mind. I've known Maite for several years, and I still learn things I didn't know about her. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce you to my friend Maite. Let's get into the conversation. You've got your wonderful smile on. I don't think I've ever seen you without a smile.
That's true. I tend to be a smiley person. Yeah.
It's great to have you here on the Not a Straight Line podcast. We reconnected, was it earlier this week or end of last week?
It was last week, I think.
Yeah, last week, yeah. And it's last week sometime. And because we'd been out of touch for a few years maybe.
We've been in touch during COVID, and it's true that after COVID, I have trouble with online meetings. It's just like there's a trauma there.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want offline only.
I want face to face. Yeah, I've had enough of this.
Yeah.
I've had enough of this. You're on mute, which was the
exactly.
the classic meme, wasn't it, during COVID times? Yeah. But we reconnected, and you told me about where you were at now, and I told you about where I was at. One of these things being Not a Straight Line podcast, and I invited you on, and you said, "Hell yeah, let me on."
Sure, yeah, talking, lots of fun.
Talking, right? But you like talking? I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, exactly right. I do my best to listen to you. It's a good exercise for me.
Absolutely. So I sent through a little bit of homework in inverted commas to you. I don't know if you saw it at the end of the email. Kind of just giving you a bit of a heads up on the first question, the jumping off question, if you like, that sends us off the deep end into our conversation. So when you reflected on that question, and for the sake of a listener who this might be their first episode, the question is, Maite, when you reflect back on your life from where you are now, and you look at the stepping stones that have kind of contributed to your journey through life, with the different turning points and inflections and the zigs and the zags, is there a particular zag that jumps out at you as being particularly significant or big, or where the stakes seemed, significantly higher?
Yes, there's plenty. Thank you for actually giving the question a bit early on, because I had to think about it, and especially with what the goal is to give somebody a perspective on, a 40-something-year-old and where I am in my life and within business. And for me, was actually, I realized a zigzag. So there was zig and there was zag then later on, and it took 10 years. So when I was 30 or coming to 30, it's like during that year, I remember I had like a complete meltdown, like emotional, like crying, like, what the fuck is this world? Like, this is not going at all like I wanted. I wanted to be useful and to work a lot and to have plenty of purpose. And this is not what's going on. There's plenty of good stuff, but not enough. And that's the year I started traveling. And so I started traveling a lot. And then COVID hit. So another breakdown of the kind. But then at the eve of my 40s, I had another thing, and I was almost expecting to have some kind of other type of meltdown, but that was not at all what happened. What happened was, okay, girl, now you're 40. Now stop eating shit from everybody else. Just do your thing the way you want to do. And, that's not going to be your 30s again. You're going to just go for it, and you're going to do exactly what you want to do, the way you want to do it. If you want to change the world, and change the world, just do it, just no more trying to fit in or whatever. You're not fitting in. You're like, and all my career, I had this this kind of notion in my head that I was an elephant in a mice house or whatever, and I was too big, and I felt too big, too loud, too much, too whatever, and then I don't know when it was, but a bit before turning 40, I had this zigzag in my head, and coming and thinking about my 30s as well. And I say, you know what? Now we're going full mode elephant. Elephant mode all the way. All fine. It's great to be an elephant. Stop trying to be a freaking mice. It's fine to be a mouse, but you're not one, you're an elephant. Accept that and go straight forward. And I guess what I really wished when I thought of that and the way of talking about that is maybe there are some people that are going to hear that, and maybe their 30s are going to be the 20s, and maybe at 30 they'll be in elephant mode and they'll be fine, or even at 20 or even 22 or whatever. So,
or even at 50 or even at 60
or even at 60 or whatever.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful, Maite.
Indeed. But it's just really, for me, it was like, indeed, it was a zigzag more than just a zag. It's open yourself to the world, travel. If you're not sure that you haven't found something, then keep looking. And then in one point, realize that what you're looking for, it's you. And so just be that, be you, and go for it, and yeah.
Okay, this is wonderful. This is wonderful because in effect you summarized our conversation in the first 5 minutes. Okay,
there you go.
And
all done.
It's wonderful. Great. So we finished. So that was Maite Grisard on the Not a Straight Line podcast, and look forward to the next episode. But there's so much in there though that we're going to have. We're going to run out of time on this. I think we're going to have to come back for a part 2. So. We will go further back in time, but I want to go back to you're 29, okay? And you said you were going. You had a little bit of a meltdown at 29 because you're going into 30s, and your life wasn't exactly where you wanted it to be. So, where did you want your life to be at that age? What kind of constructs had you created in your head? And where were you? And as much detail and stuff as you feel open to share.
I'm one of those people who don't really know what they want, but they really know what they do not want. That's something that needs constructing and understanding as well. And I'm a very instinctive person, and yet it took me sometimes months or years even to understand what my gut has been telling me. And then I would do the thing, and I would almost hear the little voice inside say, I've been telling you that for like the past 6 months, dude. So
can you give us an example? Can you give me an example?
So basically, I went to, for me, school and university was boring as hell. I was like, I couldn't wait to work. I was like, I wanted to be useful. I wanted to be on the field, to be right there, doing things. I was learning these things, and I didn't know what it was good. I would do math and do a big equation for like 5 pages and then arrive to a number 2. And I was like, what the heck? What's the point? What's that for? And so I get into, on the market, and I'm a trained manager. So that's what I studied. I was at business school. So I'm there to help manage businesses. And it was 2008. So it was the crisis in Europe. And people were like, well, it's the crisis. And I'm like, great, I'm a crisis manager. So that's just great timing, right? It was not. I was very optimistic already, but I was like, well, there's a crisis. I'm a crisis manager. That seems to be a perfect fit right there. So let's just do stuff, and I can do a lot of stuff. And I really wanted to work, and to work a lot, and to have this kind of big engine. And I have a lot of energy, which I'm learning to really, really use well kind of now these past 5 years. But before that, that's the elephant and mice thing. It was looking like, for me, I would go in. I went into a first company as an employee, and then after 3 months, I was promoted to another job. But we were still bored. We were a great team, but we were bored, and we would ask for more work, and people would say, "Well, no, because there's no budget." And I was like, "We don't give a shit about the money. We want to work more." And people would say no, and I'm like, "Oh, on earth are people saying no to more work?" I didn't get it. And it kept going, and it was good company, good people. It's just that I wanted so much more than that. My ambition was way higher than what I was getting as an employee and in life. And what I felt like Belgium was too small for me. Like I was like this big elephant, and I was in a mice country. And I was like, well, that's too small. That's just too small. But it was not just a job. It was also, so I've been horse riding since I was like 8 years old. And at 12, I had my pony because, there was this, it's not a sad story, but just the owner of the pony basically told a 10-year-old that if I didn't buy the horse, she would go to the slaughterhouse. So I went back to my parents in tears. And so there goes the story and the day where Maite got her first pony. And then after the pony was a horse. And when you have a horse, you don't travel. You just don't. It's your responsibility. And I had that responsibility. And it was my sport. It was my life. It was my everything.
Uh-huh.
But at the same amount of time, when I was an employee, I would have that mirror effect with my horse who would communicate as I was understanding it myself. Like if I was unhappy in my job, my horse would kind of not kick me, but definitely throw me away and not be nice. And like, I would have messages like, dude, you should not do that. You're not happy and you're not focused. And it just goes into my me time with my horse. And so I would not accept that. And so I switched jobs every 2 years for those whatever 6 years, visibly. I did 3 jobs like that as an employee. And then I was 29. I was like, that's not it. I need to be able to open my mind. I need to find my community. This is not my community. This is not it. And I had met a lot of people and startups in the startup system in Belgium, which was really good, full of energy, but too much blah, blah, and not enough doing for me. I wanted more. And so it kind of fit. And I had that breakdown that was a mix of everything, but also my horse got allergic to dust, which kind of sucks when you're a horse and you're working and doing gymnastics in a big place with sand everywhere, so I had to retire him, put him in a meadow and not really do the sport anymore with him. And so I asked my best friend, I told her, can you take care of the horse? And I go. And she looked at me and she said, fine. And so that's, that period of time where I decided, I don't know what I want, but I know I need to be looking for it. And so I went to Canada and I started to go to the US and to travel. And then I don't remember when, I think it was 2014 or something, I went back. I came back to Belgium and I started working as a freelancer. I was like, there's no way. So I came back and I remember I went to the whatever place where you go and you say, hey, I don't want to be an employee anymore. I want to be a freelance. And in Belgium, being a freelance costs you 800 euros per quarter, even if you don't have any client. And I didn't. And so I was like, I don't care. I'll just figure it out. But there's no way I'm an employee. It doesn't suit me. And that's it. And that's how, bits and pieces came back.
So we got into this, Zag, if you like, of this part of our conversation by you saying that your gut would be telling you things and your intuition would be telling you things and you didn't listen, you would catch up. Do you think back then in your 20s it was saying to go and travel and it took you a while to catch up with that? Or was it telling you something else?
It was telling me I was in love with the US since I was 14. I knew that. I just knew, but I couldn't. I had my horse. It was my responsibility. There was no way I could do that. I remember the first job I had, it was an American company. And so I actually, they were from Dallas, Texas. And I remember checking out, planes. How do you take a horse from Belgium to Dallas? Is it possible? I remember doing that. And
I love that.
Yeah, because I wanted to go there, but they didn't want me or want me. I don't know. I'm not saying that like I'm crying about it, but I remember that I was attracted by North America as well, but that engine that you can feel, that energy that you can feel.
Why? Why do you think?
It's funny because during COVID, so I had this chat with friends, and one she's in San Francisco, the other one she's in Florida, and we would chat like once a week or every 2 weeks or something, and we would have discussion points, whatever, a book or whatever. And then one of them said, let's do a song, let's share a song. And so I thought about it and I realized that a song made me love the US first, and it was Aerosmith, Crazy.
Okay.
Those videos with those girls just being in Los Angeles and just going on a convertible and into life and just doing whatever. And I was like, that's cool.
But very different to your life and upbringing in Belgium, I guess. Yeah.
It was freedom. Well, it was sunshine. That's the first thing. But it felt less like freedom. And then when I did go to the US, I actually went to visit my former boss, so the American company, that was the first team I worked with, the team where we were bored and we were asking for more work. And when people kept saying no, then my boss or my colleague eventually just went back to the US because he was coming from the US. And so a bit before I myself quit, I went to see him and to visit in Dallas. And Dallas is not that interesting, I think, as a city, but we went to Austin as well. Beautiful, amazingly beautiful city.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went there the first time, and I don't know. And and you just said it. I'm a very smiley person. I do smile a lot, but when I'm on the plane and I'm getting into the US, there's this over the top smile. And I remember going back to Belgium after spending like maybe 2 weeks or whatever in Texas. I was talking with people at security. I'm always smiling. I always telling stories, and they're like, "Why are you happy like that?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. It's really cool to be here. It's very nice. I really love it. I love the energy that I feel in the US. I know it's not perfect at all. God, it's not perfect. Nothing is. But there's a fit with my kind of energy and the American energy. They say that Americans are loud. I don't think they're loud. I just think they're enthusiastic, just like me. And then I come back to Belgium or to Frankfurt or whatever airport, I get back to, and people look at me and they say, "You don't have to shout." And I'm like, "Shoot, I'm not shouting. Nobody says I'm shouting in the US, Yeah.
So let's go back to that 14-year-old Maite that's living in Belgium. What was your upbringing like? What was the environment? Did you have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I'm a very lucky kid. I'm a very lucky kid. Very loving family. 2 sisters, 2 older sisters. One was afraid of horses. The other one thought they were stinking. And so each time I was coming home, I was like, "Hi," and she was like, "Go to the shower, you stink." But my parents both were freelancers or working in a company, very hard, very hard time. So for them, me being a freelance was something that was stressful. And they always supported me and helped me. And my parents, my sisters, everybody having a horse, the pony story with she's going to go to the slaughterhouse if you don't buy her. It's not like they could afford really to buy a horse. It's more like, the kid was crying. And so my parents sat down, my 2 sisters, saying, "Okay, we need to do that for her, but there's consequences." And they took that and they keep doing that. And that's something that I know. And that, during COVID, I did small jobs, but I was working in France mostly before COVID. So when the frontiers closed up, there was no more work for me. My company just stopped. Everything stopped, and it was really clear to me. I think it was September 2020. If I hadn't my family to support me, I was homeless. I just was. It was this. And when I had that zag, at my 40s, I realized that not only could I strive for something better, my mission and the mission of the company that I had with my business partner, she's fantastic, Virginie. The mission is change the world. I just realized, with that elephant thing, change the world. But the reason we can focus like that, and the reason we can accept that we're going to make only few money for a while because we have that objective for something better. The reason we actually can do that, it's because of that family support and because we have people who love us and believe in us and allow us to not make great money for years on end, and I'm amazingly lucky. I'm amazingly lucky. And so I know that Belgium doesn't feel like home for me, but it still is. I mean, my family, the people, the house I'm in. I live in an old farm, so everything it's just cost. Nothing is great. I don't even have lighting anymore in the bathroom because I don't know why. It's just the way it is with old houses and whatever. But there's something here that's kind of magical, but also that allows me to have that to be difficult and to want more than what's already really great,
But going back to that 14-year-old Maite living in Belgium, did you have a sense even then of being an elephant in a mouse world?
I don't know. I remember that when I was a kid, people were of no interest to me. It was like I was interested in insect, in small thing, in nature, and understanding. It was like I was in a big world, and the more I grew up, the smaller that world was getting, and it made no sense to me. I was like, this is not true, but it was all instinct, I think. I'm not even sure, but I don't know. I remember that I always felt like a freak. That's for sure. And I think there's a lot of people that are like that. But for me, I remember that going into my teenage years, sometimes being a freak was good and sometimes it was not. Because who wants to be like everybody else? But still, I was a bit too much of a freak sometimes, like a bit too much. And should I be lesser?
Was that ever given to you from the outside, or was that only ever an internal thing?
I don't know. I think it was mostly me, to be honest. I don't know. I have a strong temper, big personality, and I don't think that people were thinking that about me. I think it was me thinking that about me mostly and feeling something, that greatness, about the world. It was big, and I was not that big, but I was obviously too big for a lot. And I know that now it's finally getting useful. That systemic mind that I have. I see things always big picture, always far, far away. And how could we get there? And how ambitious could we be? And that's very good, but it's just not completely often that you have a mind like mine. I guess I realized that. And a few years back I realized, yeah, I have a vision. I have a vision of things and of the way of seeing things, and my evidence is not everybody else's. So I need to say that out loud more often. So that's why when a kind man say, "Hey, do you want to be in my podcast?" I say, "Hell yeah." Hell yeah, I'll talk because I have to talk. I have to say things out loud.
That's really encouraging for me, Maite, because that's not exactly, but you're vocalizing there the inherent reason for this podcast, I think, is to create a space for people to tell stories that they've never been able to tell before for whatever reason. I had a conversation yesterday with someone for the podcast, and then had a business-related call with him this morning. And he said, "I just want to say, Pete, thank you for that conversation we had yesterday." I went round to friends for coffee afterwards, and I think he's in his 60s, I think late 50s, early 60s. And I reflected to my friend that I said, I don't think I've ever told my story in one go from beginning to end. And it wasn't beginning to end. We didn't start at the beginning and then work through. We kind of just, we took zigzags through it. And I think that's a real gift, if you like, that we can give people through not a straight line. So although you might not have thought about being the elephant that you described, elephant and mouse world, back at 14, and I know you've already said that school didn't interest you. I think there's plenty of people will be able to resonate with that, myself included. But you had a great interest in the natural world and horses, obviously. Did you have any inkling at that kind of age of what you wanted to do, or who you wanted to be, or what you were going to do to kind of move forward?
God, I still don't know.
No.
I mean,
follow your nose, I guess.
I have this light that's something that I put a word on it now. So this energy that I have in me that is very strong, and I've had that since forever. That's pulling me to move forward. And it's just that I have no idea where, but it's moving. It's like it's not waiting for me. It's like you're just going there. And that's for me.
Just to clarify, you have a sense of being pulled through life as opposed to like pushing yourself through life. Would that be fair?
Well, I push myself as well, but yeah, there's a force inside that's moving on, and I guess that's time in a way. And I remember that, yeah, when I was young, I was so frustrated. I wanted everything to do a lot now, and it was so much energy. I must have been a nightmare to be around. I mean, honestly, but I had this urgency, and I know that a lot of kids have it. And I remember people telling me, "Don't worry, you've got time. You've got plenty of time." And I was like, "That's bullshit. I don't. I feel that I need to do shit now. It's like important to do stuff." And I think you calm down after a while. But I took a mental note when I realized that, and I'm always trying when I see younger people, with that kind of urge, I will never tell them that they've got time. I'm always going to say, fine, and then just push them. Just go. fine, just go make your mistakes. It's fine. Then just get up and keep going. It's just mistakes are good. I say that with my niece. She's 9 now, but I remember I think she was 7 or something, and she would say I made a mistake, and I'm like, dude, mistakes are good. And then she would come back for months after, looking at me, then smiling, and said, mistakes are good. Yes. And it was, oh, so there, but it is.
So why do so many people think that is not the case? Well, firstly, is that a accurate statement? Would you say that a lot of people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is that?
Maybe it depends. Well, the accurate statement for me is that mistakes are good. A mistake is an action, and action is always better than a non-action. So let's do stuff and then figure it out and adapt and stay really observe what's going on and then adapt. I always say the best plan is the plan that changes over time. It always evolves, but you do need a plan still. But the statement that people don't like mistakes is that, for me, and that's a whole big thing for me. It's I strongly believe that we are living in a very sick society, a sociopathic society that just doesn't work, and it's dramatic. It's dramatic. It's destroying the whole world we're living in. It makes no sense, and it's just crazy. And it's just crazy, and crazy is crazy. So yeah, people, it's crazy to think that you can't make a mistake. That's how on earth do you know if it's a mistake or not until you've done it? It's a crazy thought, but it's based on fear. We are very afraid. We are very afraid, and the society that we live in is feeding on that fear and making it worse. And we need to reverse that, but it's excruciatingly difficult, and it requires a lot of effort and courage. And sometimes, some days we have courage, and sometimes some days we don't. And so I guess, when the days we feel that energy pulling are the days that we need to be brave and say stuff, and maybe break some eggs or say stuff. And, I do that now. I write articles, I say stuff on LinkedIn, and I'm like, gosh, am I going too far saying this stuff, writing it down? Are there going to be people in 10 years that are going to say that I'm an anarchist or whatever? Well, fuck it. I don't know. We'll see. And yeah, maybe I say stupid stuff, but I'm crazy as well, like the rest of my society, so that's fine.
You mentioned there about the society feeding on the fear. I think to a large part it also creates the fear for it to then feed on, and that a large aspect of the craziness that you talked about there is built on fear. That's why the media is, to large intents and purposes, negative, because it instills and maintains that idea that things are bad and the world's scary, and you stay safe. And I guess the whole thing about mistakes is that if you fail to make mistakes, that's risky, and you don't want to be at risk. You want to be safe. So, but because if you're not safe, you're going to leave yourself vulnerable to this scary world.
Yeah,
I don't want to live in a world like that.
No, and the weird thing is, the media is dead wrong. It's dead wrong. People don't like to be scared. They love it when you have an optimistic movie, an optimistic book, something that's going well. It's funny how they tend to say, when you watch a movie and it's a romantic movie, you say, oh, it was a B-rated movie or whatever, and then you watch a violent movie or whatever, it's really violent, and that's very realistic. Well, that's bullshit. It's not realistic. The romantic movie is realistic. That's realistic. I mean, you've got TV shows with policemen, with people dying all the time and getting murdered. How many murdered people have you ever crossed path with? Did you ever see a murder happen? I mean, that's not realistic. That's not. It's bullshit. And fear doesn't actually work, and we know that. And I've written something not so long ago about that, and about that need that we have to really start to change the paradigm. And the way to do that, competition's bullshit. It just doesn't work. It doesn't. Competition, that's just envy. That's envy. It's you see what somebody else has, and you want it, and you want to crush them and take it for yourself. It's bullshit. It doesn't work. Cooperation and collaboration, that works. Teamwork, that's teamwork. It works. If it works for a team, if it works for a family, why on earth couldn't it work for a society? Of course it could, And the thing is, but we are sick, we are sick, we're unhealthy. And the truth is, you never heal with violence. You don't heal anything by striking on it. So that makes it very difficult, because how do you heal violence when it makes you angry? When you're angry, you want to strike. I mean, and I'm female, so I might cry as well, because with us females, we've been so many times when we were young, we couldn't be violent. So the only way out of violence is crying about it. So if you see a woman and she's crying, she's not sad. Most probably she's pissed off. But just so you know, but it's that is that the only thing that we can be? Can we be either angry or sad? I've actually wrote that. I was watching something, and on my desk here I have a whiteboard, and I write stuff sometimes, and then I remove it and I change. And I was mad. I was watching a documentary about Earth and about all the bullshit stuff our linear model is doing. That's crazy. Just I'm going to say that out loud, very, very loud. The linear model, it does not exist. It's bullshit. It's trying to put a square into a circle. The world is circular. Stop with the bullshit linear model. It doesn't work. And so I was really mad. And so I took.
What do you mean by that? What are you drawing on to come to that conclusion? And what's the alternative?
The alternative is stop believing our own stories and thinking that we can take resources, not care where they come from, and then produce at bad quality, calling it accessible, and then say that the rest is waste when there's actually no waste in the world. In the circular model, waste is not a word, it's just resources. And here we need to shift that value. That's a big thing. Industrial, we're talking businesses. It's a real need, even for economical prosperity. You need to stop saying that when you build something, there's value, and then afterward there's not. That's just crazy. That's just crazy, and it's destructing the world. And so I'm very much a lot with the circular thing. And so I was watching that show, and I wrote down, because you're asking, the alternative from being sad and being angry. And I wrote it down. I'm reading it now. I wrote down, don't be mad, be productive. You see shit happening, just do something, anything. Again, make a mistake or more, write an article on LinkedIn and people are going to hate you for it, whatever. But be productive.
Be productive in terms of make something.
In terms of do something. And listen to that strong light that's pulling you, go with it. Be productive. No, not in a linear kind of production, of course, but productive in the way of doing something, going past our fears, or through, even better, going through our fears, headstrong. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of talking, of saying things out loud? Just write it down and then say it to yourself. Even just that's doing something.
There will be someone who's listening to this that is unable to, or finds it difficult to process the idea of this energy that you described as pulling you forward. So yes, you take steps and you take action and you do things, but that even going back to the 14-year-old Maite, you've sensed that there is something that's pulling you through the world. For the person listening that is either not in tune with that or doesn't recognize that in their own lives, do you think that is a universal thing? And if it is,
no,
you don't think it's universal?
No.
Okay, that's interesting. Go on.
No, I think there's a lot of tools and a lot of psychological tools that exist, and there's one that I really like. It's called the Enneagram. And in the Enneagram, you have 9 numbers, and each number is a type of personality. And it starts very basic, but then you have layers of complexity that add to it. And it really allows you to understand yourself and try and understand other people better and understand. I went to seminars, and I remember the first day it was friends that told me, just you should do that. It's going to be helpful, because that energy that you say people don't understand. Well, I'm having a lot of trouble understanding it myself, But so I went, and I remember in the morning, I felt like I was completely different from everybody else. So that freak and monstrous thing, monstrous, like huge thing, and sometimes bad, but whatever. And then the afternoon, I understood that I was very similar to a lot of other people, and so, yeah, we are different and similar to other people. It's all very complex and difficult, but the more we question ourselves and we observe our reaction, the better it is. And in the Enneagram, you have 3 types of centers, as they call it. You have the mental center, you have the emotional center, and you have the instinctive center. And I'm in the instinctive center, obviously. And there was an exercise at some point. So we were with this instructor, and she told us she was very much into dance and gymnastics as well. And so she liked to do exercise of how we were reacting, each of us with our own personalities, doing things. So really moving around. And we were moving in the room, and she said, now you're going to feel your energy. You're going to try and feel your energy, and then you're going to put it in your feet, and then put it in your head, and then put it in your hand or whatever. And people were moving different ways, And then they asked, what did you think? And I laughed. I was happy, but I laughed. And she said, what did you laugh? And I'm like, there's no room. I mean, I can't. If I want to push thing to my head, I can push like this much, and then it's filled. It's everywhere. I have too much energy, like not too much in a way that it's a problem. It's not. It's a great problem, but it's really big. It's really big, and I guess looking back at it, it's what people call purpose. Purpose, faith, destiny, vision, whatever. And I'm not sure if I'll get to that point when I'll feel inside that alignment that says, now you've done it. That was it. Congratulations, you reached the end of your journey. You can die. Who cares? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I don't think that the end of your journey is when you die.
That's true.
How can I say? You keep going. There's I had a podcast interview yesterday morning, and the guy said that what he's learned in his life is that the zag, as we've talked about, the zag is the main thing. That is life. And if while you're on a zag, you think that, oh no, I need to get back, or get back on the path or whatever, you can't. In a sense, it's almost losing the point, because where you are is where you are. So you're on the path. You just have to, I guess, think about what you can learn about yourself from where you are, and keep moving forward, and trust that where you go is the right place. But it sounds a bit kind of, I don't know what the word is. It's like, it's almost speaks to being purposeless, because you're just moving. You're just kind of like, where I am is where I am, and that's fine. So how do you square that circle, that there is this sense of purpose kind of driving me forward, but also alongside that being content, if that's the right word, or not? It's almost not enough. It's kind of acceptance of where one is.
Yeah, acceptance was a big thing for me too. It's actually the first time that you told me about a big moment. That was one of the big moments as well. That was in 2017 for me. I had been vegan for like a year, something like that, and it was based on a conversation about slaughterhouses. I went deep, and then I just became vegetarian and then vegan, and it suited me well. But I was overwhelmed with the guilt. I was like, how can you say that you love animals and eat them? You're just an asshole. I was really, really harsh with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, I realized that I needed to accept that, but also, and that was really important, that from the day I was vegan, the world changed radically. That society that I lived in, and I was uneasy in it, but now it was not even uneasy. I wanted it gone. I wanted it gone. It was like nothing made sense anymore. And I was at an event. I was in Melbourne, Australia, and I was at an event, and they did like cards, and you had to pick cards and put it on the floor. And there was all those cards. And I realized that my world was in pieces right now, and that was okay. I needed to accept that. And I even wrote a little blog, a little thing on it afterwards, to really put my words on that. But acceptance, yes, it's important. And with this energy that I had,
how did you do that practically? If you like, how? So you had a thought that you needed to accept where you were.
You just understand it. It's just, for me, it's just clicked.
Right.
It just clicked. It's just
that you can't change. You can't change the situation, so it's just accepting.
Well, you can. Of course you can. That's kind of my goal now. But you can. But to do that, you need to accept that it's gone first, in your head at least. The thing I wanted to say about that is that you talked to me, about my purpose, and it was pulling me, but I didn't know where I was going. The truth is, I always knew, but I wouldn't dare say it out loud before, because it was so big and almost cocky. And I was like, I can't be that arrogant that I can say out loud that I can do this. But the truth is, it doesn't matter. And no, I'm not going to do this alone. But all those steps, all those zigzags, as you say, brought me to the absolute sentence that makes sense for me. And with that energy that I have and that light that's pulling me, is that I want to change the world. I want to change the world. That's what I want to do. Nothing else is interesting to me. That's just plain truth. Everything else I'm not interested in. I love people, and so I'll spend time in the present with people and doing things and helping out because I like that. But the purpose that I have in my mind is I want to change the world.
And what aspects of the world do you want to change? And do you know what you want to change it to?
Yeah, I do now. That's new too. But yeah, but so again, after the vegan stuff, so my world was in crumbles. And so I started doing mind maps because I'm not a visual person. So there's nothing that I see in my head. For me, it's magical. People can like watch TV if they close their eyes. I cannot do that. So I sense stuff more. I don't know. I sense stuff and I kind of see blurry image in the back of my eye, something like that. But still, I managed to understand that sometimes I would walk in a city and I would almost see a new world, another way that this could exist, that we could exist as a species, as a society. And I knew, of course, that there's plenty of ways. It's just that we are so focused on ours, and it's with globalization, we kind of force it like bullies on everybody else in the planet. And we have that cool kid effect that's unfortunately very bad. We're bad cool kids. We're not good cool kids. And I started to envision that and to work with mind maps. And then at some point, it was like 2 years ago, I was discussing with a friend. He's a writer as well, more in business. So we've wrote business books, and we have a chat like once or twice a year. We catch up in Brussels when I'm there and he's there. And I was talking to him about these mind maps that I have, because I actually had within the mind map an alternate society, another way to live together, completely different. I basically take everything, I throw it in the garbage, and then I start again. And he was like, dude, you should write a book. And I was like, come on, Omar, I can't even write to save my life. I mean, how do you want to do that? And it turns out that my business partner, she's a copywriter. She's a scientific journalist, and she actually edited one of his books. And so he was like, well, can't she help? And I'm like, well, maybe, I don't know, And so I remember leaving him and sending a text to Virginie, to my business partner, and saying, if I write a book, can you help? And she said yes. And she actually hadn't read the book yet because she didn't need to. It just unlocked something. It was just, I thought I couldn't write, but it's not about me. It's not about my writing skills. It's about the story. It's about the vision. And a few months later, I was in England. I was dog sitting, because I dog sit sometimes. I like it. I was in England somewhere in Sussex. I don't remember. The dog name was Alfie, that I do remember.
I do remember.
And I was with Alfie. And we were going on walks and stuff. And it was snowing December. And this story about a little girl came up, and I started writing. And now I'm 65,000 words later. I'm going to plan a meeting with a developmental editor in 2 weeks. And my goal is to publish in 2025. And it's an utopian novel. I'm taking a story about a little girl. She's growing up in this society, and then everything changes. And no, there's no nuclear bombs. There's no wars. It's just changes. And I love it. And I'm actually realizing that I'm changing the world. It's just a book. It's a novel. But I'm doing it. And I don't know what's going to happen after that. But what I love is that it became something on its own. All of that big energy that I have, I felt at some point that I was taking a bit of it, and it was becoming that book. That book is not about me anymore. It's its own thing, and my job is to push it so people can read it and be inspired and do their own utopia, because we do need utopias in this world. And when I go to a library and I ask, do you have utopian books? And they say, oh, no, ma'am, we only have dystopias. That is not okay. It is not okay. It is, even in the industry, there's a big gap. I mean, that's a hole there. There's a hole. Plus, we need optimistic visions of the future. Every theory, democracy is an utopia, everything is an utopia, but we do need it to get there, or close to it at least, And So stop with the freaking nuclear bombs and wars and just start talking about utopias.
So how are you dealing with the fact? I mean, there obviously is a book called Utopia, and it ends up being anything other than
it's
that.
It's not called utopia, but it's the genre. You know, the genre is an utopia.
But most utopias end as dystopias because it sort of flips over. So how you?
Not mine.
Not
it
yours.
Doesn't. And it's just as easy as that. You know, it's a novel. I can write whatever I want. And why the heck couldn't I write that the utopia is ending up as an utopia?
That's amazing.
How sad it is, how sick and crazy are we that we think we can't have a happy ending. If you read Thomas More's book, Utopia, it's not a utopia. And then you read The Island. Well, first it's on an island, so go with the ambition, and plus, it's not, again, a utopia. It ends badly. Why on earth do we feel the need to end stuff badly at the end? What is it that we hope people will do when they finish reading? Kill themselves? That's bullshit. Let's not. Let's just have them, have hope for the future. Feel that energy, feel that pull, and feel that purpose to, hey, well, it's not going to be perfect. Nothing is anyway. And this is clearly not perfect, this sociopathic linear system that we live in. So, why not? Why not? So I'm not saying I'm starting a new genre. I think it should exist already. And hopefully, and I do read books that have optimistic ending, and that's very important. But we need more good stories because there are a lot of good stories that we just decide because in our sick mind, we think that we don't deserve them. Of course we do. We do. The future does. So see, changing the world.
Changing the world. Do you know how your story ends? Do you know how your novel ends? Or you're looking forward to discovering that?
I do. No, I do. But it's funny because a few days back, I was like very excited. I was like, it's almost over. My first draft that's going to get worked on again. So it's not, the book is not done, but the first draft was almost done. And that verbalization, that's really something. Because saying things out loud, you process them in your mind and something came up. And so I had my sister on the phone and I say, I'm very excited because, my last 2 chapters are a bit weak, a bit too skinny. I need to refurbish, but I'm almost done. And then I thought about it. And actually, I'm missing a big piece of the story. So I'm not done. I still have like the bunch of the story, but I know, well, I don't know exactly, but I kind of know the stories that I'm going to write. So I have the structure. Everything that should happen happens, but I've never written before, so I need help, but, I'm excited. And I love my book. I said it on Facebook like a week ago, and my mom went, you said that on Facebook. Are you disclosing that you're writing a book? And I'm like, yeah, why not? I don't know. But I was reading it, and I was just happy reading it. I was loving it. I was like, I love it. I want this to exist.
Your story there is testament to something you said earlier, Maite, about just make mistakes. You said, I've never written before, and you started this particular part of your story saying that you're not a writer, so you didn't feel almost that you had the right to write, if you see what I mean. And maybe your business partner saying that she would help you was almost like the permission that you needed just to say, okay, I've got help. So straight away there's a lesson. Is like, ask for help before you need it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And to get going, but also to not be afraid, let's put it in the positive, to be energized about the opportunity to do something that you don't feel equipped for, because you can't get equipped for something until you start doing it.
Exactly.
And you must be a better writer 65,000 words in than you were when you wrote the first word.
I don't know. Maybe. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care about it's about energy. I'm a very energy person, but it's about, I need to leave to transfer that energy into the book. The way I transfer it, I don't care about what I was doing 2 months before and is it better now or worse. I don't care about comparison. I just care that it exists and that I feel that it's going somewhere. I'm very focused on the future. I like that. Yeah. Present and future. The past is not so my thing. So I don't really spend time regretting or comparing. But yeah, maybe I write better now than before, or I write the same level. I don't know.
You can't. It's inevitable. You can't not. The 100th episode of this podcast, I would like to think, is going to be better than the first. Although the first was a cracking start.
Come on.
And the second was great. And the third, with you is like pretty great too. Like you can fuck it out, I feel like I'm off to a really great start. I'm sort of wondering when they're going to crash and fall flat on my face. But this isn't my first
Well,
radio; it's my third podcast. So perhaps the other two were the kind of the first few chapters, if you like, of getting good. Not that I think I'm good, but just creating spaces for people. This word space keeps coming up for me, and I think it's important to create space. If our lives are full of stuff and things and work, and I know you've said several times that you just want to work as much as possible, but do you resonate with this idea of space and having space to figure stuff out, or do you just go?
Sure. I reflect a lot on myself and on what I do, and I live alone, so I don't have a husband or kids, so that helps a lot to reflect on yourself, But the intensity goes both ways. I am a very intense person, lots of energy, and so when I spend a lot, I'm happy to be by myself afterwards and to kind of calm down and to lower my energy down. But there's something that you said that's interesting, and you said, I don't remember exactly, but you said I'm a good podcaster, and I'm not saying that I'm good, but yeah, you're good. And I think it's important to understand the difference between modesty and passion. We need people to understand that they're good at things, and I would not have dared tell you, I guess, that I loved my book or that I loved anything that I was doing maybe 5 years ago. And that's bullshit.
Interesting.
I'm very good at a lot of things. I'm very bad at others, but what you love to do, you're good at it, and yes, maybe you'll get better at it. And yes, maybe you'll crash and fall a few times, but won't that be a good exercise? Yes, it will be as well. But being modest does not mean never saying we're good, I think, or being humble. Being humble is recognizing our own emotions and our own love for things. And saying that aloud, I think, is a gift to this society that's sick. It's one of the way to heal violence, is to stop always hitting on ourselves. And say, well, maybe I'm not that good. Well, yeah, maybe you're that. Maybe I don't care what's the intensity of goodness. But if you love it, then you're good at it. So you're good. You're good, Pete. I think you're good. You're a good podcaster and a good person. And yeah, that's something that needs to be said.
Well, a good podcaster or not, what I know that I am great at is creating space for people to tell stories. That speaks very much to the producer in me. Actors tell stories, and producers create spaces for other people to tell their stories. And I think that's my main desire and intent and heart and passion for this podcast, is to create a space for the people who wouldn't ordinarily have an opportunity to tell their story or even reflect on their story. Like I said, this guy yesterday that said that it was the first time that he can think of that he's ever talked about his story in one go. So we've both zigged and zagged to this point where we are now. We've actually met face to face, which I can't say about everyone that I talk to online.
That's true.
You came over to a networking event in London, I think, a few years ago.
Yeah.
Our lives passed there, and we've sort of met online, and here we are now in the same virtual space. Do you have any sense of? I mean, obviously, you know that you're going to finish writing your book, and that's going to go out. Do you have any sense of the path forward from here, or are you just going to stay focused in doing the best you can with where you are right now? What do you think the future holds for Maite?
I'm not sure. I know there's going to be stuff to be done. I know that I'll be able to handle them. So I'm not really worried about what to do in terms of actions, to actually, how do you get a book published? I want it published in the US. How do I do that? I don't know yet. But it's step by step. It's one step at a time, a lot of after one another. And aside from my book, I'm focusing on Market Trotters and on this company that wants to change the world, helping people and helping teams, getting that purpose, getting that energy. And I say the pitch that we gave in one sentence is always, we shake companies with energy and benevolence. And it's just exactly that. And I want to make that evolve, because the world needs that. We need energy, we need benevolence. We need to start looking further away than what the shareholders want, or where is the money and whatever. Money does not exist, people do. we need to refocus on the people. And there's really something, and there are a lot of people that are building and persevering in creating new industries that are in respect with our direct environment, which is crazy to think that we were not thinking that it was important to respect our environment. I mean, that's crazy. But we need to help them get there. And to do that, we need to persevere to have the clients that pay and the clients that change the world, and hopefully merge them and eventually have making money with something that makes sense. It's we're in a world that wants to get back their sanity, and I want to help. I do. I know my focus is changing the world, but I'm changing the world doing that. So that's the short-term plan, is company by company bringing that energy, that smile, and helping people believe that we do deserve a utopian future and build that, because we're the only one who's going to build them. We can do whatever we want. We're destroying the world because we want to as a society. It's not, we don't mean to, but we are, which means that if we say that out loud often enough, we can change the world for the better as well. Of course we can. It's up to us, but it's difficult and it's daunting. And so, energy, benevolence, and keep going.
And why benevolence? That's not a word that you hear very often. What does it mean to you? What's it encapsulating?
It's honestly started with people saying that. So because a part of my job is to basically look at a CEO in the eye and tell him the truth, and tell him, your ego, that's a problem, or this is bad management. Not in those words, but still. And it's exactly that. Is that not in those words sometimes? And I often tell them, I know I'm shaking you a bit much, and this is tough. And several times I hear them say back to me, we know you're doing that for the good of the company. That's I can see in my behavior, with the energy that I give, that I transmit, that I'm shaking them with benevolence. It's just words that they were using, and that makes sense. And it's really something that I want to do. I want to push that. And I have plenty of that energy, and that energy is benevolent. I did a how is this called? I don't even know in French how it's called. It's like it's a thing when you move, and you're in an energy specialist, and she has you move around and do stuff and talk about yourself to try and discover yourself. And at some point, she had me talk about this energy that I feel in my gut and then everywhere, but I feel that core, that is there. And she said, is it bad? And I'm like, no, it's full light. It's beautiful. It's amazing, and it's full light. And the more I give, the more I have. It's really that. And I'm convinced that I can make a difference giving some of that energy that is pure love and pure benevolence. Really, it's just a world that is, for me, it's the best world. It's benevolence. It's compassion to oneself. It's yes, mistakes are good, and yes, making mistakes is doing something, and yes, some days doing your best is going to be not much, and some days it's going to be great, and it's okay. It's all okay, but we need to do that doing our best, and to feel that pulling energy. Basically, I'm trying to do what my own body has been doing with me since I was a kid.
That's amazing, and that almost kind of brings us full circle on the conversation. You did mention earlier in the conversation that in the COVID time, it just decimated your business. How is business now for you?
It's getting much better. We're not at full throttle, still, and we're looking for people. We need people that want to open their minds. I just said, part of my job is to tell somebody that there's lack in management or something or other, and to give energy to everybody and to all the team. So structures that highly hierarchical and with a boss that wants to be above the law, we're not a good fit. So we're kind of owning up to the fact that we're looking for top management structure, or structure that want to work with what we call, centralization of information and decentralization of decision. It needs to be fast and operational and efficient. And efficiency is about happy people making good decisions, and sometimes bad, but it's okay. We correct and then we keep going. And with that energy again. So yeah, it's getting better. Yeah.
So how would the listener to this podcast know whether, let's say they're responsible senior management or founder of a firm, how would they know that contacting you would be beneficial? How would you describe them? Who's your ideal client, I guess, in a nutshell?
The ideal client, and you kind of said it. It's, you need to ask for help, and we need diversity and a lot of different people. And so we're building a company that is adjacent to companies with different formats. So we come in and go. So we come in like every quarter and go. We're very intense. We're coming for a few days and then back. We moving inside the company, any department, any country, any industry, doesn't matter. What matters is people and finding nodes and helping to open the minds and find solution and go with the purpose. So
energize those nodes, I guess, in a way.
Energize, yeah, definitely. But so I guess the typical person would be boss of a company, understanding that alone is not much, and that diversity and having different kind of people bring different kind of energy is going to be helpful to manage to go and to steer, a whole boat towards a utopia, towards a vision or something, and discovering that vision is also something that we help do. But there, we can really help. We can really help find a solution. So if people feel stuck or alone, or how am I going to do that? How am I going to manage people? That seems crazy, and it is super difficult. And we're not magicians. Most of the work that we do is we help top management and teams persevere into difficulty, because it's always going to be difficult. Stop thinking it's ever going to be easy. It's never is easy. Maybe it's easy for some people, but for me, easy is boring. So I'm not interested in that. But if you have difficulties, then I'm game. Let's dive into that and let's go and put some good energy towards moving forward and in the right way. If you're thinking linear or making money, I'm not your guy either. Well, we have to make money, and that's fine. Yeah. But you have to help people, and to help people, you make money. Money is the vehicle of value. It's not the value itself. Yeah. If you think that money is value itself, I'm not the right person for you. But if you do think that you want to be helpful to society and you want to change the world, and even if it's a small world, a small industry, and you need help to get there and to get money to get there, then fine, I'll help, and I'll give you plenty of energy. Don't worry, and tools, and I'll go and dive in the operations. I'm only interested in the operations and getting shit done, and yeah, we get shit done.
I know from firsthand experience, Maite, that it's impossible to spend more than a minute in your presence, virtually or physically, and not be energized as a result. So that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So we're coming to the end of our time together, which is both sad and exciting. Sad because I can, enjoy talking to you forever, but exciting to know that we're a step forward to getting your story, or this bit of your story, out in the world when we make the episode live. But let's fast forward. This is a question that I ask every guest on the podcast. So fast forward 6 months. You subscribe to Not a Straight Line, obviously, on your podcast app. And one morning, your podcast app dings and a new episode has dropped in. And you look at it, you look at who the interview is with, and you go, oh man, I really want to listen to that. I really want to know that person's non-straight line journey through life. Who is it? Whose name kind of gets you excited about that?
I need time. Plenty of people. I have a problem with names. I don't remember them, and I'm always interested in. I love being surprised, or I'm not a big fan or groupie kind of person. I could talk or pass a celebrity in the street and I wouldn't even notice them. But I'll think. Should I think English or like England?
Anybody. Who was the first person that came to mind when you heard that question?
The first person that came to mind was Brené Brown.
Okay.
She's a podcaster herself and a a book writer. And I guess the reason is also because I just listened to one of her books, and I love the way she actually does her own audibles. And she's super funny. So the content that she writes is very interesting. So just for the content of the book, it's good. But I would really highly recommend to listen to her books, because she does stuff like, well, this was a very important sentence, so I'm going to re-say it and reread it for you because I know you're driving, which I always am. And so
that's great.
I really like the energy that woman has. That's an easy one. I mean, she's a very famous person already. So I'm kind of in the back of my head, I'm like, you're not helping somebody and lifting them up. And I really like to do that. I really like lifting people up. But hey, you said the first person that came to my mind, so that was her.
Yeah,
that was her.
Well,
yeah.
if after this I have planted a seed, so we're obviously in touch by email on LinkedIn and stuff. So if somebody else comes to mind, you think, you know what, I'd really like to see that name pop up on the podcast app, then just let me know.
I guess my partner Virginie could be a great one too. That's saying something. She's got a great story.
Okay.
Yeah. So 6 months from now, Virginie Chantry. She's awesome.
Okay.
Beautiful person.
All right. I mean, I'm kind of cheating. It's like I'm getting my guests to build my future guest list. It's like, why?
Oh, you should. That's just efficiency. You should.
Why make life hard? I've started with an initial batch and then just build from there. So wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and for your energy. That's just amazing. So big virtual hug, Maite. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing you in person again sometime soon.
Thank you very much, Pete.
Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Not a Straight Line. If this conversation helped to reorient your internal compass or inspired you in any way, please let us know by heading to podcast.notastraightline.life/rate and leave a rating and review. Thanks as always to Matthew Bliss of MB Podcast Services for his exquisite engineering of this episode. If you'd like him to help you with your podcast, contact details are in the show notes. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, or there's someone whose non-straight line journey you'd just love to hear, then please visit podcast.notastraightline.life/guest. Thanks for being here with me, and I'll see you next week for another amazing, deep, inspiring non-straight line journey. Love you.